freaking first cut. Golly. Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and here to wish you a happy Festivus, a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Today we are doing the holiday mailbag, answering your questions that have come in over the course of the past few days and weeks. Joining me to do just that, Patrick McDonald is here. Hello, Patrick.
Gentlemen, I don't normally get the first introduction. I like it. I'm not going to lie. And it's great to be here, obviously, and happy Festivus to you all.
Yes, you looked a little, I didn't know if you were paying attention, and I wanted to make sure. It's like when the teacher calls your name to see if you're still there.
Always paying attention. Always paying attention.
You absolutely nailed it. Mark Immelman is here. Hello, Mark.
Yeah, how's it, boys? So impressed you would drop Latin in Festivus on us. That is incredibly cool. And Patrick, you just don't look the same without the warm library, behind you over there. It's a bit too stark and almost modern right now, huh?
Yeah, I don't like it either. I feel a little naked, out of my element. But I'm hoping the sweater. I'm in Florida. It's about 83. I only packed sweaters because I'm a complete dummy. I'm hoping this will bring some warmth.
Yeah, a couple of road games, couple home games, rounding out our crew for the day. Coming in from the cozy confines of his home, Greg DuCharme is here. Hello, Greg.
Hello, gentlemen. Very cozy, although it is bitter cold outside. This morning when I woke up, it was 9 degrees. So quite a delta between Patrick's temperature and mine. Nine's a little, I like winter. Nine's a little uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable, unnecessary. I do have something that is necessary, and I mean this seriously. We need your vote. We need your 30-second vote for the best golf podcast. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not privy to the running totals as they're coming in, but it feels like we've got some momentum. We are getting a groundswell of support. It feels like we are running a grassroots campaign. We're knocking on doors. We're getting everything taken care of to get these votes. We're going over to the Sports Podcast Awards. You're filling out the form. It takes 10 seconds. You're giving your vote for the best golf podcast to the first cut. The link is in the description. You can find it on anything that Josh has tweeted out or put on Instagram in the last couple of weeks. So no excuses about finding that link. And I like it, Patrick. I think we've got small donors here. Lots of small donors making up our constituents.
I agree. And I just saw a poll out of Iowa that had us really far ahead. So this thing is as good as done. It's as good as done.
No,
we've got to make it to election day.
You mustn't listen to the polls, folks. Get out and vote. Doesn't matter what the polls say. Ground game, people. It's about the ground game now.
Vote early, vote often. There's really no, listen, you want to stuff the ballot box? Do it. You want to make an extra email account? I'm not going to stop you. I don't think that's a federal offense in the Sports Podcast Award. So I think we're all good there, but we appreciate your vote. And hopefully we will reign supreme. If we do win, I think we should all get an emoji attached to our name tags for the next year.
Yeah.
The number one emoji.
The number one emoji.
I think that's fair.
That's what we're shooting for. Get a little bling on everybody's name tag. All right, gentlemen, very special episode. I'm not in control anymore. The people are in control. Okay. And I am just the voice of the people. I am their vessel. I am going to ask the questions and you are going to answer them. I don't know how much screening Josh did. Josh, did you do any screening? Or is this just straight up what the people have asked for? Did we? Oh, he says, of course you did. Okay.
I'm thinking.
I'd like to know what the filters are, when it comes to screening these questions.
Yeah. You know that video of the security guard at that English soccer game, just like barely patting a guy down and then just like, you're through. That's what Josh did.
Oh, we might have to do like a first cut after dark episode with the filtered out questions that
unfiltered.
Unfiltered.
First cut, unfiltered.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into this. I do not know what order they are in, but we're going to start with a couple of questions from Antonin. Antonin has it is one question. but there are two options to this question, and it goes a little something like this. Which unlikely event is more likely to happen in 2025? Option A, all four majors are won by Scottie Scheffler. Option B is that all four majors are won by first timers, which most recently happened in 2016. Then it happened in 2011. It happened in 2003. So it's been 3 times basically in the last 20 years. Obviously, Greg, I don't need to do the math. No one in the last 20 years has won all 4 in the same year. But which of these do you think is more likely to happen in 2025?
Yeah, you probably know where I sit on this one. And if you watched our prediction show, I had Scotty winning the first 2, and it just had to mix it up and throw Rory McIlroy in there for the 3rd major of the year. So I do think Scotty is more likely. And it's not just what Scotty is doing. I believe he's a dominant force in the game and capable of winning all 4 majors. I never thought I would say that about anybody. But the other side of this coin is all 4 first-time major winners. You're talking Scotty doesn't win any. Rory doesn't win any. Xander doesn't win any. Bryson doesn't win any. The guys that you expect to get in here and really compete for a major championship and win one, contend and maybe all of them, they've won majors. And the list of first timers, you're talking about a Max Homa, a Victor Hovland, Patrick Cantlay. You get thin pretty quick. So I think the guys that have won majors are primed and ready to go, and will. If Scotty doesn't win all 4, I still think I think there's a better chance you have no first-time major winners winning any majors this year than all first-time major winners winning.
Mark, you had a physical reaction when those words came out of Greg's mouth. I don't think you agreed with him.
Well, here's the thing. On this preview, on the prognostication show, I was like, not happening. And then you guys pointed out to me that Fleetwood was the first time, and I'd predicted him to win the Open at Port Rush. Here's the thing. The last time someone won all 4 major championships in 1 year was Bob Jones. And they were different to the majors we know. It was the Open, the US Open, the US Amateur, and the British Amateur. The closest someone's been has been God, Tiger Woods-ish, right? Who had 4 in a row over 2 years. It was the Tiger Slam. So it's never really been done where one guy wins all 4. Now, respect to Scotty. I hear Greg and I hear the point, but I think there's way more chance of first-timers winning than one guy winning them all. Now, I'm not open right now, disclosure, that I'm thinking that first-timers are going to come through at these venues next year. They're all sort of venues where it's going to separate the wheat from the chaff. And someone who hasn't won a major when it's coming down the stretch is going to be hard around these courses. But I still just cannot see, no matter how good they are. Even Tiger Woods could not pull off 4 in one season. So I'm going with the first-timers, all 4 of them.
Break the tie, Patrick.
Logical, I'm going to go with Scottie Scheffler because Greg just mentioned.
You guys ever been to a PGA Tour event in
person? Mark's decision was logical.
Logic, probability, like it is 0 chance that Scott, like it is infinitely more likely that a first timer wins all 4.
I'm going to win the $900 million lottery tomorrow, or whenever it is before that happens.
I just.
Well, are you going to play, Mark?
Heck yeah, I'll get that lottery ticket. You'll never see me again if I win.
No, I mean, look, Greg was right on when he said Mark's answer was the logical one. I don't live in the logic, right? We talked about how Jordan Spieth lives in being uncomfortable. That's where Greg and I are right now. We're okay pushing the envelope, putting our necks on the line. Scottie Scheffler is going to win the Masters. PGA could be up for grabs, right? Rory McIlroy plays great there. Sure. Xander Schauffele as well at Quail Hollow. He's going to win the U.S. Open. And then at the Open Championship, we saw this past year, he played pretty well. I believe he was under par or par or better in all 4 rounds there. So, you look at the crop of guys who haven't won major championships yet, the big names, you always get like a random guy here or there. I think we can all agree Brian Harmon a couple years ago at the Open, not really on anyone's radar. So you could toss in, I don't know, a boatload of names there also, but I'm going to roll with Scotty.
Both of these things are incredibly unlikely. I just think that Scotty winning is all four would be incredible. Here, I'm just looking at the Masters odds, just the Masters odds right now. I'm just going through the handful of names that are 50-1 or shorter that have not won a major. Off the top of my head, Ludwig is there, Victor Hovland, Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Cantlay, Joaquin Niemann, Tyrrell Hatton, Tony Finau, Sungjae Im. End of list.
What about Greg's guy, Bob McIntyre? Well,
he's there, but he is very much down the board. Where is Robert?
Really? Good in majors.
120-1.
Oh, put that
Same
lottery
odds as
ticket on that,
Ricky
Mark.
Fowler.
Hey.
Wow. Okay. Well, there you go. Let's move on.
He's not even in the field.
Well, they're
not
taking money on him. They're
True.
taking money on him. This transitions to our game. Connor wants to know who would win in a scramble, Patrick and I, or Mark and Greg. I think Greg's team is always going to be the favorite in this one.
I got to say this. Greg's good. I used to be good. I've got a great future behind me. I've watched you guys on social media. I could probably cobble together a little support for Greg over the 18 holes, but I'd like to know what format that was going to be in, because this thing, if it was like a scramble, I think it would be fair game. If it was maybe medal or best ball or something, I don't know. But I'm going with my boy Greg.
Greg,
I don't blame you.
Yeah, he knows it too. That's the problem.
Look, I am a good player, but always rusty, but always feel like I'm getting there. And if there's one format in the game that I excel in, I mean, absolutely excel, it's scrambles. I
billions and millions
have won more scramble tournaments than I have lost. I think that's I've played in about 5. I've won about 4. So I have a very good record in scrambles. Maybe it's 6 with 4 trophies.
That seems low for you, I feel like.
Can I add Can I add something here?
Yeah.
Do you know who has the only loss that I've ever heard Greg DuCharme catching in a scramble? Do you know who served him that loss?
Yeah. Oh, I do. The moose is loose.
The moose is loose. Joe Musso.
See, that was not a scramble. It was a shamble.
More like a sham. Am I right?
So you hit your tee shot, and then you played your ball in from there. Yes, and Joe is still. I wouldn't put him on the naughty list, but it's pretty close. So I'm very good in that format, and I think a partner like Mark. I also think that the teams are. We could switch around the teams to make it more interesting.
Yeah, that'd be a good call.
I think, Patrick, what we have going for us, high energy. I think we could get rolling in a specific direction. I think we could rattle these guys. I need to shut the blinds, but defend our honor while I walk away.
Well, I think, honestly, we are the team to beat here because I know I could get under Greg's skin. Once we start hooping a couple putts, once we reach a green in 2 and you guys are greenside, or you hit one in the water, you leave Mark out to dry. He doesn't know what to do. He plays it safe a little bit. I'm going to be right there on your shoulder.
He's a veteran.
Just talking to you the entire time. And this whole distance thing, Greg, I know you're a big bopper. I've read about you online. You're out there 190, 200 ball speed. I'll be right out there with you. No worries in the world.
You probably would be.
This has officially become a game now. because now I'm going to play from the middle of the fairway more often than not, and my sand wedge is my favorite club, and the putter is my second favorite. So I'm on my boy's heels. He can drive it all day long. We are going to wear you out. And I watch you online, Patrick, and all I'm thinking is 4 left. So Rick's going to be on his own in the fairway.
Yeah, my alignment is all out of whack. I have no idea where I'm aiming the ball.
Which is fine for a scramble.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll make a ton of birdies, but we are going to put up some big numbers as well along the way. Also, Connor wants to know if there was ever a chance of us going on the road and doing a YouTube channel or a YouTube video. I will just say, as much fun as that is, I would love it. I think we would all love it. I do not think there is much CBS support. I do not think that there is much logistical support of that happening, but it would be an absolute blast if we could play together and get it on the internet. But
it's a dream of mine.
Yeah, gee whiz. I look at these YouTubers and stuff. I mean, these guys are making fortunes just cruising around the place, playing all these lush golf courses.
Yeah,
like,
it's a good gig if you can get it.
Yeah.
We're going to continue. We are going to reset here. Josh is going to hit a quick break, and we'll see you on the other side.
At CBS Sports Galazzo Network, we're bringing you the game.
The madness of Messi arrives!
Breaking down the game.
This is unlike anything else in the world.
And changing the game.
Get it all for nil.
That means free.
Whoa.
And all day long!
24/7.
And we're back. Justin comes all the way in from Melbourne, Australia. He probably sent this question from the future, and now we are reading it. And Mark, I'm going to start with you because this seems right up your alley. And I don't know how. Actually, I know how you're going to narrow it down to one, and I already know what the answer is. But the question is, who is your golfing hero and or someone that you wanted to emulate?
I'll give you a guess who you think my golfing hero is.
I think it's Bobby Jones.
Very good guess. I might have told you that, I'm sure, over a glass of wine. Yeah, look, without a doubt, Bob Jones, the man that he was, not just the golfer, the statesman, he was highly educated. I mean, was at Harvard, Georgia Tech, Emory, had an English lit degree, a law degree. The man was incredible. And then what he did with, founding the Augusta National and Peachtree and all these cool clubs there around Atlanta and in Georgia, just an unreal man. And they've made a movie about him, Stroke of Genius. And so, I think it's not even a question. When people ask me your favorite foursome, or if you got to play golf with 4 people, he'd be first on my list, ahead of my daughter.
We'll keep that secret from her, although she probably knows it at this point. Greg, she would understand. Greg, anybody come to mind?
There are a few. So first of all, when I first got into the game, Tiger was, of course, the obvious choice here. You want to play like Tiger, and I tried to swing like him and pictured Tiger swing when I was swinging, always, as unrealistic as that is. That's what that was a model. Other ones that I really liked were Vijay Singh. Oddly enough, I just loved watching him swing. And I wanted that easy tempo. Ernie Els was on that list for a while as well. A little bit of Fred Couples, though I didn't really watch him quite as much. But those tempo guys were just phenomenal. And the more I've learned about the golf swing, you kind of understand why their tempo is so silky smooth. And so it's probably changed a little bit. And now in the modern game, Xander Schauffele made some very effective swing changes last year. I actually liked some of the aspects of his old swing better, even though they're less effective. So I really liked some of the things that Xander did in his golf swing, and I still do. I just think it's gotten a little less picturesque and a lot more effective, which is definitely a better choice. So Xander would definitely get on my list as well as a golfer you'd like to play like. Partly because he's so darn good all the way around. So Tiger, Vijay Singh, Ernie Els, Xander Schauffele. That's kind of the list.
It's a good list. Yeah, I mean, I grew up firmly in the Tiger Woods is everything. You want to play the video game. You want to do everything like him. Nothing else matters. I think from like a historical standpoint, as I've gotten more in touch with the game, I always go back to Francis Ouimet and like I love the idea of what he did for amateur golf and kind of in the early phases of the American game. And Brookline was awesome to go there and see not only the country club, but like the house that is right across the street. So I've always been kind of keen into that, Patrick. You're probably young enough to be a Tiger guy, but you always surprise us.
I was not a Tiger guy growing up. Being a left-hander, Phil was my boy. I loved the way he played, how wild he was, some of the crazy outfits he wore. I mean, I remember one time, I think it was the final round at the Masters, he wore these like brown pinstripes in a brown polo. It was just absolutely electric. He made a triple bogey on the par 3 fourth, I believe, that final round, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I try to emulate my game after him. I would just only practice wedges in short game, and my long game, of course, like Mark kind of alluded to, still lagging behind a little bit. And then as for, I guess I want to say heroes, but people I respect. I mean, Arnold Palmer is top of the list for me. Just reading stories, how he treated people, the common folk, for me, and having Western Pennsylvania blood as well. He's always been the guy I've looked to.
So that's awesome. I just had a brainwave, Rick, because you spoke of your affinity to Francis Ouimet. I need someone out there in the internet right now, the Photoshop experts, to Photoshop Rick's head onto Eddie Lowry. His body. Eddie Lowry was a short little guy. Yeah, I think that would be brilliant. That could be kind of like our artwork for 2025 and beyond.
I'm sure it'll be in our inbox here shortly. Okay, looking forward to that as well. If not, we'll get AI to do it.
There you go.
Pretty sharp at making stuff like that. This one's interesting, Greg. I'm going to throw it to you first because you've got great connections in the industry, and I assume you're still a loyal Titleist guy, as far as I'm aware. But this is from Chris, and I thought this was interesting. If an already established brand outside of golf clubs, so think Under Armour, Reebok, Adidas, etc., got into making golf clubs in 2025, how would they fare against the current top dogs?
They would have a hard time. I wouldn't say that it's impossible, but it's a very difficult business to crack into. And there are a number of reasons for that. One, the game is getting more and more and more performance based, and consumers are more and more and more aware of the importance of club fitting. And when you start going to these places where you can get fit by any brand, you're going to end up with equipment that works the best, and you'll be drawn to equipment that works and performs the best. And so you think about the R&D departments at Titleist and TaylorMade and Callaway, and even like a PXG, a Ping, all of these companies that have been for a very long time investing a very large sum of dollars into their research and development to make the best clubs possible. And they've gotten to a point where they're so close to the ceiling, they have to make these really small, tiny changes. So you'd have to recruit talent from, you got to get really creative with the talent. I know Titleist for a while had individuals who studied the sound of the closing of a door for Audi, because it's a really important thing in selling cars, luxury cars especially. And they use the sounds to create a driver that sounded the best it possibly could, right? Those are the levels of details that these companies go through. And that's just one example, one minor example. So the barrier to entry is really extreme. But you could think of a PXG who has entered the market, but they have done it with a tremendous amount of funds, funds that are, quote, by design, kind of unlimited. And I think, while I'm no expert on the business side of things, but watching their strategies when it comes to pricing and things like that, they even had a hard time with that model. Even at that point, you got to start trying to win in other ways, and price is a great way to do it. So I think it's not impossible, but it's a very, very difficult market to breach.
I couldn't agree more. And my insights here are personal. I think it was since maybe 2008 or 9, I've been involved with Bridgestone Golf. and Bridgestone Golf have Bridgestone Tire Company behind them, which is massive. And Bridgestone Golf made golf clubs, and the golf ball has always been the thing. And they decided a few years ago to step out of the golf club market because of the cost thereof, to Greg's point. And then along those lines too, at that stage I was wearing Nike apparel, and Nike clubs were coming out thick and fast, and they had, some of the great designers, Mike Taylor and company, working for them. And even Nike decided to step away from golf clubs just because the market is, I don't want to say insular, but to Greg's point, it just is, the capital layout is ridiculous. And that's why you're seeing the amalgamation of all these companies right now with Titleist Acushnet and with TaylorMade and I don't know, they're all sort of blurring together. So it's a really tough market.
The PXG's one is interesting one, because Patrick, you literally get a billionaire who says doesn't matter what it costs, we're gonna do it. And to Greg's point, they started out being, it doesn't matter what this costs, it's going to be the best club. And now it is, have you seen our latest sale? We're, the Gen 3s are a lot cheaper now, which they couldn't compete there. I do think it would be interesting if one of these like Formula One companies, like if Mercedes-Benz got involved, which already does a lot of what Greg is referring to, which is this high-end R&D, spend hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars on something. There's no reason for them to ever do it, but I would be interested to see what the repercussions would be if they were to enter.
And hopefully they would copy PXG's marketing strategy as well, which is really just scream at you through the TV and hope you buy a club, which it hasn't gotten to me yet, but maybe a couple more commercials and I'm getting around to that new driver of theirs. I'm not an expert when it comes to clubs. I'm not familiar with them at all. Like you alluded to, Rick, the juice probably isn't worth the squeeze for many companies, even if they have the capabilities, just because of how tough it is to enter the market. And so, I mean, I agree with everything that Greg and Mark already laid out.
Yeah. If Mercedes-Benz or Rolex, or like if somebody was trying to, they'd be better off buying an existing company than trying to start from scratch, which would be
it makes you wonder. And Greg, you could probably speak to this. Your average golfer buys a set of irons how often in their golfing lifetime? And so it's not like people are going out and just buying clubs left and right. Now, maybe they're fiddling around with, driver once in a while, but that's just getting so expensive right now. And it sort of speaks to, in my opinion, the nature of the market, because, being in the golf club sales industry, this is not an everyday occurrence.
That is why the golf ball equipment manufacturing business is a golf ball business.
Correct.
And that's why Bridgestone, well, my guess would be that's why Bridgestone would say, hey, let's cut our losses. We don't need to compete in the club side of things, because our business is built on the golf ball. Titleist, who has really only recently gotten into the club market in a very serious way. They have always been the leader in the golf ball space, but for a while they kind of lagged behind when it came to clubs. And they recently, over the last 20 years or so, and I could be wrong on that date, don't hold me to it, but over the last 20 years or so, they really started to put a lot more emphasis on their club manufacturing. And they made a conscious decision, because of their overall mission, to put a lot more investment, a lot more research and development into the club side of things. And even Titleist went out and got guys like Bob Vokey and Scotty Cameron, who were well entrenched in specific markets of the club industry, wedges and putters, and brought them on board to help out. So Titleist is essentially responsible for irons, fairway woods, hybrids, and drivers. And they have the whole Vokey team, which was established before, and the whole Scotty Cameron team, which was established before, to handle the rest of the bag. So it just gives you an idea of the depth that goes into it. And that creates a very significant challenge to, just jump in the market.
Yeah, it's a good call. I'll tell you what, nobody does podcasts like we do, period. Right? So we are going to continue. We're going to continue this conversation after a quick word from our partners. we're back, I'm going to jump around a little bit here, Josh. And this one I did not see in my initial glance, and I'm going to go right to it. Patrick, what is the best logo in golf? And that is generic by design. Doesn't say golf club, doesn't say club manufacturer, doesn't say anything. It says, what is the best logo in golf?
The best logo in golf.
I had a couple.
Tough. That's a lot of golf.
That's a lot of golf. It's a lot of logos.
Golf. First thing that comes to mind is Augusta National Masters. I mean,
That's the most popular one. Yeah,
everyone got 3 of them on our screen right now.
Yeah,
between the 2 boys at the bottom.
Sure.
I guess I'll throw On the Mark podcast in there because I'm looking at that one.
You're Yankees. You're just looking at logos that you can see.
The course record also. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I kind of read the outline a little bit more. So
we'll circle.
I do
back
like I do like Oakmont though, also with the squirrel.
You're going to see a lot of that this year. That's a good one. Greg, the first one that popped in my head was Winged Foot, which I know is probably one that popped up for you too. Sherwood Country Club has the Archer, which I think is very good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good ones.
There's one in Connecticut called the Stanwich Club that has a Stanwich. It's all one word, but their logo is a witch on a broomstick.
I've seen it.
And it's phenomenal. It's very cool. There's also one that has a witch logo that is Salem Country Club in Massachusetts, which makes a ton of sense.
Adds up.
That's pretty cool. There's also one, I want to say it's called Stonewall. I believe it's called Stonewall Golf Club, and its logo is a cow, which is great because on the if you get like a ball marker, the front is a cow's face and the back is a cow's behind.
I see it.
It's a great logo.
Go ahead,
so I love all of those.
To that, very close to you, Darien Country Club's got a cow because the golf course was built in a dairy field. But I have 2. The first one is Pasatiempo out in Southern California, where you got the palm tree that's sort of bent over, and the little guy with a Mexican sombrero sitting there as if he's passing the time. He's having a little siesta there under the palm tree. I think that's great. And then along your lines, Greg, I just love Sleepy Hollow. Where you got the Headless Horseman. It's those 2 to me. I'm not one of these guys that buys golf hats kind of thing, but the Pasatiempo I haven't been there. I actually asked someone to get the hat for me. I'm still trying to get the Sleepy Hollow one because I just think those 2, you look at them and they make you think. You look at them and there's a story behind them, and they just look very, very cool in a hat or a shirt. It's not like ostentatious and all in your face.
There it is.
There you go.
Yeah, that one's great.
I got that hat without the name underneath it. It was just the palm tree and the little guy taking a little siesta.
Those are the best hats.
Yeah.
Just logo only.
So that's the logo. If you know, you know. The TW logo that Tiger apparently gave up recently for Sunday Red, I thought was a great logo. Patrick, are you old enough to remember the Tiger Woods logo before the TW?
No.
Greg, do you remember that?
Yes.
It was in that video game. It was like that red. It was like red and black.
Elliptical sort of
the oval. Yes.
Yeah. That is, even now when I think of like Tiger Woods logo, that's what I think of. Not even like the TW. I think of that because I whatever video game it was in, I must have played that.
Yes.
That's what I think.
The thing is, the problem with Tiger and the TW logo for me is Tiger's logo is swoosh. It's Nike's logo, which is one of the best logos in golf.
It's like a Jaguar right now with a bunch of different stripes and stuff on it. Sunday Red. Come on.
Yeah.
Sunday Red. Yes. Yeah.
Here's one I have that is out of commission also, unfortunately. Talking about player logos, because everyone has one these days. Jordan Spieth, Xander Schauffele, some of the best out there, obviously. Bryson DeChambeau's old one that was just himself, the silhouette, the side profile with the
Yeah.
with
hat on it.
uh-huh.
He
I used to love
retired the
that.
hat, retired the logo.
Yeah, it's a shame. Now he's just his letters, I believe.
Your boy Phil has a pretty good logo too.
Yeah, that
That's
is a good
elite.
one.
That's an elite one. Yes, very good. Okay, let us continue here. Hold on. I had one for Mark. There was a very specific one for Mark that I thought was good. Okay, here we go. There's a couple of these, Mark. I'm going to lump them together here. So basically, both Joe and Oracle asked something similar, and it's in reference to your brother Trevor. And with hindsight being what it is, was there a moment where you or your parents, your coaches said, "Wow, okay, he's got it"? And do you think that was work ethic, born with it? What combination of that to become a Masters champion?
It's a good question. I'll answer the second part of that first. Trevor worked as hard as anybody. In fact, when I was working with him as his instructor / coach, I'd have to put him on a ball count because in practice, you can hit your way through doing the right thing when fatigue sets in. So you lose form and eventually you end up almost making the practice session not null and void, but you don't make it as effective as what it should be. So look, the work never lacked. Trevor made sacrifices as a kid in his social life. He never went to a prom. He never did all that sort of stuff at all because we were just always playing golf and traveling to golf tournaments. My parents, to their credit, got behind him. I'll never forget them sending him off to the United States by himself. And a host family met him at the airport. And the host family were very good to him. And there were two. There was one on the West Coast and one on the East Coast. And they were very, very good to him. And so I'd say the work ethic is a thing. Look, he's clearly talented. He's just athletic. As a kid, he was very fast. He used to run sprints. I'm not so sure he's that fast anymore. But in terms of sort of knowing, there was an event that, I was over here in college playing college golf, and I was an All-America. And I went back home over Christmas. And you talk about pinstripes, Patrick. I had this white hat with like pinstripes on it that said Max Fly on the front of it. Talk about old brands that went away.
Ooh.
And Trevor's like, "I want that hat." I'm like, "No," because he's 9 years younger than me. And so he goes, "I'll play you for it." And I was like, "Fine, I'm going to whip you." And we get to the last hole at our home club. It's a par 5. No, sorry, a long par 4. It became a par 5. And he tiny green hits on the green to about 15 feet. And I chip and putt for 4. Now he's got 15 feet to pip me by 1. And he stands over this thing. And I kind of knew he was going to make it, but I was hopeful he wouldn't. Because he was 13 at the time, and I was an All-America sort of stud. And he hit this putt, and it left the putter face, and he looked up at me like this. He didn't watch it go in, and he just went like this, as he was looking straight at me. And went in. I'm like, "You little shyster." So he always had that. My dad calls it the ability to sort of will the ball into the hole. Trevor battled him on that when he started battling with his game, but Trevor had that mental thing. He had that "I'm going to find a way to beat you" kind of thing. And yeah, so I had a moment like that. That's when I knew. I'm like, hold on a sec. If I want to be the best golfer in the world, I can't even beat my household.
That's incredible. That's really cool. That's a good story. That's one I have not heard. That's very cool. Let me continue here. There's a couple that are hypotheticals, which could go in a lot of different directions here. David Faraday, if you watch the showdown, Patrick, David Faraday said the other night he wants to see the top 54 on LIV and the top 54 on the PGA Tour play each other.
You're laughing.
How would
Because
that
there's
go,
only
Patrick?
54 people on LIV.
How would that go, Patrick? What would that leaderboard look like to you?
Well, first off, we found out this past episode that Live Golf is a listener of the podcast. They're in the chat commenting on the episode. So hopefully they get in the live chat here shortly in 2025. And thank you for watching. How would that go? I'm trying to think about who the 50th ranked person on the PGA Tour is. That's roughly Nick Dunlap, If I'm just
it's
like
roughly like Mackenzie
JT
Hughes.
Poston.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ken's
like
views, yeah.
yeah, something like that. And then the worst person on Live Golf is gosh,
Nick Kim.
hopefully he's not going to tweet at me. # girl
Yeah.
dad Anthony Kim.
Yes.
And then you also get into the Vincents, which I'm a big fan of. Southwest Virginia Tech legend Scott Vincent, of course, who could forget. You get into the Ironheads, who are making moves, obviously. Some of the cliques also making moves. Some
Cleeks
big
are getting
pickup.
some fresh blood for the Cleeks.
Yeah, Samuja, see you later, sayonara. So I think it would look like a win for the PGA Tour, because not only do you have the best player in the world, the second best player in the world, and probably the third best player in the world, and I'll slot Rahman at 4. It's interchangeable week to week, kind of those big 4. It doesn't matter, but the depth of the PGA Tour compared to Live Golf, considering it's their entire league, mind you, is a bit overwhelming.
It is no surprise, Greg, to hear Patrick say that. One, he's part of the corrupt golf media, but two, I think that he is actually correct. He's actually correct here, because the talk that it's always Live is very top heavy, right? The top 8, 10 guys, great, no problems there. When you look at it the way that Patrick just laid it out, who would you rather have? Mackenzie Hughes, Denny McCarthy, Maverick McNeely, etc., or Anthony Kim, Hudson Swafford? It is literally not even a competition.
I'm just looking at the FedEx Cup points list, and I see Tom Kim at 51, Nick Dunlap at 49, Eric Cole at 50, Max Grazerman at 48. If we're playing in the desert, Adam Hadwin at 47.
Game over. Game over.
You got, I mean, on the outside, look at the outside. Justin Rose on the outside, Harris English, Seamus Power. These are like in order. Nick Taylor, Jake Knapp, Minwoo Lee. These guys aren't making the squad, right? They would be top 20 players.
Minwoo Lee would be like
Live.
the 7th best player on Live.
Okay, let me put it to you this way. If Minwoo Lee, he'd be the biggest coup for them right now, because he's got the swagger, he's got the game, the whole thing. They would be falling over themselves to get any one of those players, Greg, that you just listed.
How about this one? Jordan Spieth,
Whew.
67th.
Yeah.
Right. It's not even, it's really not even a good question. And it would be great promotional, great promotional thing for Liv. And, that's probably why Faraday brings it up, but he has to look at this and know what would happen.
You know what? That's a really good point. You make me think, Greg. And I'll say this, I remember my days back as a college coach, and then when you're working with players on mini tours and stuff, and you can kind of become a part of an echo chamber. And you working with a few good players, you're like, these guys are unbeatable, right? And you watch them in their little mini league and like, these kids are unreal, or these golfers are fantastic. And then you put them in a bigger event somewhere and they get blown out of the water. What your point is so true, because I'm sure Faraday's out there and you watch Rahm hit and you watch Bryson hit and you see some of these guys like, wow, these guys are so good. But on the PGA Tour, they are coming at you thick and fast. Trust me. As a guy out there in the fairways, it's now a question of not just going out there because you're going to get Morikawa or you're going to get someone else with the lead groups. I mean, I've had Luke Clanton, I've had Thor Bjornsson, I've had all sorts of golfers here on the weekend at PGA Tour events, and that speaks to the depth of what the PGA Tour has.
I remember working down at Medalist one year, which has a lot of big name tour players, but it also has a lot of guys that are trying to make it that don't necessarily make it. Mm-hmm. And I'm playing in this member as a marker, which was one of the coolest things. And I'm playing with these two guys that you would never know their names. I won't share them anyway, but they were so good. One of them is striping it all over the golf course. I'll never forget. He was from Colombia, I believe, and he's standing in the fairway on 15 in a 25-mile-an-hour crosswind, and he's like, I think I got to hit the 5, and he's smoking a cigarette like a dart as he says it. He's like, I think I got to hit the 4. The 5 isn't going to get there. And I'm looking at it like, I don't think 3 wood's getting there. And he stripes this thing right off the edge of the bunker, exactly like he talked about. up there to 12 feet. Well, meanwhile, his partner, who also never made it, he made lipped out for birdie on 10, made birdie at 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and had 10 feet for birdie on 18 and narrowly missed it, lipped it out as well. That guy quit trying before this. He had taken like a couple months off because he had just quit and got a job in the real world, quote unquote. And the other guy who was smoking the cigarette had made like $4,000 in his career. And their stripe shows never made it.
It is tough sledding out there.
But you watch that and you're like, these guys, to Mark's point, these guys are so good.
Well, not to get into
big world.
We're not going to rehash this whole thing, but that is also the problem of the lack of meritocracy on Live. Is it is stuck of guys who are just getting lapped at the bottom by any up and coming player, but they're not being relegated or they're not being asked to leave because they're friends with Kevin Na or they're whatever it is. We don't need to litigate that whole thing, but that is an obvious problem where like the bottom 10 or 12 guys are just should not even be on that tour.
Yeah, I imagine it will feed itself in the coming years. The problem will probably grow if they don't solve it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to work here. Jonathan says, and these are his words, not mine. The PGA Tour goes to the same boring tracks that often lead to birdie fests. You've got my attention, Jonathan. What PGA Tour event would you move golf courses, and which golf course would you replace it with? So, Patrick, we're going to start here with you. He says he's looking for a public course. So his take, to put this into perspective for you, is to move the Rocket Mortgage, Birdie Fest, we agree on that, to Erin Hills and let them have at it there.
Interesting.
Wait. Isn't Rocket headquartered in Detroit?
Don't worry about the money, Mark. Don't worry about the corporations. Don't worry about reality. We are suspending it.
What happened in Detroit with Phil Mickelson a few years ago? There was a writer there who wrote something about him, and Phil didn't come back because of that. I think that's going to happen to the person who asked this question for us, just picking on Detroit like that. The Motor City.
I don't remember that.
How dare something like that happened? I'm like 42%
You're
sure.
right.
It was KP in Memphis.
What course would I change?
He was asked because somebody asked him about the bookie stuff and the Billy Walter stuff.
Okay. Yes, that is right. Okay. What are my least favorite courses on the PGA Tour? Probably TPC Craig Ranch. Just off the bat. First,
that was on my short list too.
Yeah, not thinking about it. That is in Dallas, I believe. Where could they play in the Dallas area? This guy's moving states. So if he's allowed to, I am too.
Yeah.
So we're going to go from TPC Craig Ranch to what's in that part of the country? Southern Hills. There you go.
No, move that
not
CJ
public
to Congaree. That's because it's the CJ Cup now.
Those are don't they have to be public?
Oh, we're going public.
Congaree's
definitely not public.
No.
Okay.
How about moving something to TPC Harding Park? How would that play?
Okay, that would be fantastic, but I called the PGA Championship there in the throes of COVID. So there was nobody on the road, and it was still impossible to get in there.
It's impossible to get to.
The logistics are crazy.
You would have to helicopter every player in and have them jump out of the helicopter.
Yeah, and the parking area is tiny. They were talking about building this big bridge over that big lake that was next to whatever AT in there, so folks could park in like a strip mall on the other side of the water. That's a great golf course, but it doesn't have the space to do it.
So I was looking through the public Golf Digest top 100 public golf courses. And what you just brought up with Harding Park is definitely a factor here because there's a lot of like the Bandon Dune courses, right? Which would be very cool, but how do you get to them?
They're impossible. This is one of my hottest takes in golf is like, there shouldn't even be fans at events, any of them. And then you can go to any golf course you want. and just go to Bandon. Like that would be so sick watching those guys try to tackle that, especially in horrible conditions.
That is, in my opinion, a huge factor in the ball rollback aspect that's misunderstood. Like the golf courses that professional golf events on the PGA Tour can go to is not limited by the length of the golf course. It is limited by the size of the property. And if you go to TPC River Highlands, for example, a short golf course on the PGA Tour, the property is huge.
Love that.
There's room for everything, right? I mean, they have an enormous range. They have farms to park on. It's a huge piece of property. The Sawgrass is kind of the same way. It's not overly long, but it's big. So that's a huge limiter. There's one I came up with, which I think, like the Rocket Mortgage, we could just jump on board and move from Detroit Golf Club. It is very few golf courses that I don't like on the PGA Tour. I think Detroit Golf Club could be improved. I think Craig Ranch could be improved. Maybe Twin Cities, TPC Twin Cities would be another one. But really, they're pretty good. So Black Wolf Run would be in the running of a public golf course I'd go to.
Talk about a place that's impossible to get to. Golly,
yeah.
I did
but it's Kohler, right?
Yeah.
You got right. You're right there by Whistling Straits, so you got some land. Is my guess. I've actually never been there.
And all the new places. Go ahead, Mark.
I sat in a bus doing an event for PepsiCo at the Ryder Cup. It took us from downtown, I'm drawing a blank, to the golf course, capital of Wisconsin. Where am I now? Not Minneapolis. Help me, please. Milwaukee. Milwaukee. From Milwaukee to the golf course is about 35, 40 miles. Correct me if I'm wrong. It should be about 40 minutes. We were in a bus for 2.5 hours to get to the golf course. And when we got there, from where they parked people to where the PepsiCo chalet was, which was on the 16th hole, the par 5, it was about another solid 45 to 50-minute walk. It would be impossible. Completely impossible.
And now all these great new places are being built in just like the middle of nowhere, right? Like,
here's one, and the idea has been floated already. TPC Avondale for the Zurich Classic in New Orleans. Zurich were floating the idea a couple years ago, maybe, of moving to a public golf course in New Orleans, which would be super cool. But again, you run into logistical errors and stuff too. But the truth is, everyone who plays in the event, most of the media and stuff, all stay in New Orleans. And then you commute out of town, and that's about a 30-minute commute or so to get to the golf course. But that also, to Greg's point, is on a massive property. And they got parking and stuff everywhere there. I think Avondale gets a bad rap. I think it's got some cool aspects to it. They just can't grow rough over there. So, if it's not dry and firm, they'll shoot the grass off the place. But that could be cool if they could move it to this public course. I don't know the name in downtown New Orleans.
If there was, so that reminds me of, I know it's completely different, but like Coors Field in Denver, if you're going to a baseball game and you're staying downtown, it's awesome. Everybody can walk to it. It's very easy to get to. If you have to like drive into it, it is an absolute disaster. So the idea that everyone would already be there, like in that region, would make it very cool. But logistics.
Yeah, I mean, Yankee Stadium's the same way. I imagine if you got to drive into a city, it's not fun.
Not fun at all.
Bethpage Black, by the way, would be the only other golf course that PGA Tour should probably go to.
This one is gonna be really helpful for you, Greg. You're gonna have a leg up here because Tom is asking us to suspend real time. Okay, so time doesn't matter anymore. Although I don't know how he can say that because he then goes on to say, if every person on Earth, currently about 8 billion, trained for 10 years playing competitive golf, would Scotty Scheffler be in the top 100 on Earth? Now, hold on. I'm going to make a couple caveats here. So the way that I read this from Tom is that dates stop. So basically, like, I'm 36 years old. I'm going to train competitively as a professional golfer. And when that time limit is up, I'm still going to be 36. Like Scotty is not going to be 38 or whatever when this comes true.
So Scotty's frozen like Austin Powers.
Yes, correct. He's been frozen like Austin Powers.
Mojo's over
every
here.
person on planet Earth gets 10 years of competitive professional golf. Does Scotty crack the top 100?
So the general question is, does Scotty Scheffler have top 100 worldwide golf talent when everybody's exposed to the game of golf?
Mm-hmm.
I say yes, because 10 years is not enough time for, like, I guess the thought would be, well, okay, the LeBron James type athlete is a golfer now.
Yes,
right.
Greg,
And he's well trained.
Yes.
But Scotty's been dominating the game of golf since he was 7.
Out of 8 billion people, what number athlete do you think Scotty Scheffler is?
Like general athletics.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, I want to hop in here after that.
Fascinated.
He's like 4 billionth. Okay. Or maybe less. He is
Well, how
not
do you
a very good
define
athlete.
that?
I guess we should take babies out.
Have you seen him playing pickleball?
Okay.
that.
Mark,
Okay.
Basketball?
He did
my
take
mother
down the
plays
world number 1
pickleball.
in pickleball.
Yeah,
Mark,
here's my take on this, because I've taught a lot of folks getting into golf, and lots of Europeans would come down to my golf facility in South Africa over the summer, take lessons every day. People from Holland, Germany, Italy, you name them. And after 4, 5, 6, 7 years of work, they moved their handicap from 18 to probably about 8, 7, 6-ish. I don't think people realize now that this whole athlete thing, like, have you seen Shaquille O'Neal swing a golf club?
that's a little different.
Okay. Have you
Yes,
seen LeBron swing a golf club?
Yes.
You go and ask any one of these athletes what the hardest sport is to master, and all of them who have tried golf will tell you golf. Have you seen Rafa Nadal swing a golf club?
Have you seen Steph Curry swing a golf club?
There's an outlier. Okay.
Have you seen John Smoltz swing a golf club?
So I would almost.
But 10 years of training for them.
10 years, Rick. No.
Scotty's
have
got
you seen
20
Marty?
under the belt.
Yeah.
But what about the guy who is uber talented, already the 200th best golfer in the world?
Over 10 years?
I'm going to get better than Scott.
I'm
He's
seeing
going to catch Scotty?
I'm seeing Josh in the comments in the private chat going, what about Romo? Romo is like Scotty's ATM at Royal Oaks. When Scotty low on money, he calls up
He's
Tony
in
Romo. Rick, golf. Here's my take. Golf is a different skill set. I've been teaching golf since 1995. I've seen my share of athletes come through.
I completely. I think Scotty is probably. I do agree that golf is a completely different skill set, other than just being an athlete and all that stuff. But the idea that Scotty Scheffler could not be, the point is being that no one on earth could surpass Scotty Scheffler with 10 years of Scotty's the most optimal golfer on the earth right now. How can that be possible?
10 years of training is not very long.
That's true.
You see, this is what I need people to realize, because I've gotten to work with elite golfers. This is a lifelong pursuit, and they never get it. 10 years, I don't think the average person realizes what it takes to get to the NBA, or to get it to the NFL, or to get to the major leagues, or to play, soccer in the European championships or whatever. It's more than just being faster, stronger, higher, that sort of thing. It is hours upon hours of sacrifice and work and stuff. Not everyone's just going to fall into the top 100 golfers in the world. I'm sorry. I don't care how athletic.
Patrick, we've got every professional hockey player now playing golf at the highest level, everything that they need. All the cricketers in the world. Every person, there's a billion people in India. You don't think that one of them is going to be able to figure this out?
Well, that's not the question. It's top 100.
Okay,
Yeah.
Maybe one
of them.
person does.
Yeah, you need 100 of them to get past Scotty.
I will say my one interaction, not one, but most memorable of seeing an athlete try to play golf. I was at this event and Brian Arapko was on, the team formerly known as the Redskins, and he's just jacked. Defensive end, super athletic. He's pounding them over the net on the range in warm-ups. He goes to the first tee, big crowd. His biceps are like too big for him to swing properly. I also had the problem at the time. That's why I remember it. And he's just whiffing them. It took him 10 swings to get off the tee. I've never seen someone so confident, so athletic, just shrivel up like that in front of a crowd. It was unbelievable. Felt for the guy, but it was great being a member of the Gen Pop and watching that.
The other thing is, to Mark's point, like when you get to that level that say Tony Romo is at, improving from there is so difficult. It's so challenging. And you have to have this starting point as well. And it's that 10 years is not that much time. I mean, I watch my son who just started playing hockey this year, and I go to practice sometimes and leaves, and he's never gonna make it. He doesn't have, he's too far. There's not enough time.
Well, hopefully he doesn't listen to this podcast, Greg.
I'm first of all only teasing, but I'm not kidding that the thought has crossed my mind, because we're out of time, and it's a crazy illogical thought, but well, we'll see if it's true or not.
The other thing is, I don't know if in this scenario, Scotty also gets 10 more years of training, right? So he gets 10 more years of experience, but stays the same age, which would be very
I would
dangerous.
say, just from watching the eye test, Patrick, I think Scotty is at the height of his powers. I don't see how things get much better than what he's doing, because there's so much volatility in the game. Like, he could flush it all day long and miss a few putts and not win. Or he could hit one perfect drive down the middle, have it in the divots, and then I spin one up against a gust of breeze and in a front bunker, double, and he doesn't win. So that's the element that one has to bear in mind too in golf. Golf, you don't play on a fixed field where it's the same and where the conditions are surgical, like inside of a dome or whatever the case might be. Golf, there's a lot of stuff that is immeasurable. You guys know this. I harp along on this stuff all the time. It is a big deal. I've watched fantastic athletes in Kevin Peterson and Brian Lara, all these world-class cricket players who are like face 100-kilometer-an-hour pitches, basically, can hit a cricket ball all over the place. They're good at golf, but they're not going to beat Scotty Scheffler after 10 years of practice. I'm sorry. They are just not going to.
The other thing is, it takes those bad breaks that Mark speaks about. That's what has to happen in order for Scotty not to win.
Scotty,
Right?
Scotty Scheffler, top 100 player in the universe, even if everybody else gets spotted. 10 years of high-end practice and competition. Gentlemen.
Can you imagine, Scotty, you are in the top 100 golfers of all time in the universe, and he'd be like, oh, cool. What do I do with this?
Cool. Yeah.
I thought I was first.
Yeah. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Safe travels if you're going somewhere. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? We are not going to get together again until Monday, but believe it or not, that's week of Century Monday.
Oof. Wow.
I know. Early start. There will be, I believe,
boys.
It's on season, baby. I believe there's going to be another podcast coming out, but I think, Josh, it's going to be like a greatest hits volume 10 type.
It's an album. It's a Christmas album from the four of us.
But yes, singing carols and our favorite songs.
It reminds me of that. Was it last year where all the TaylorMade guys they dressed up in their Christmas pajamas and stuff? Morikawa and Tiger. Yeah.
This year they released like remakes of movie posters.
Hey,
So I think Colin Morikawa was doing the Home Alone.
we didn't even touch the PNC. Can we get a round of applause for Bernard Langer on the final?
Through all the hate too on social media. Justice
my
for Tim
goodness.
Langer.
Yeah, plays from the up tees his ball up in a bunker, anchors it. Anchors the putter,
Whoa.
Congratulations.
No.
Proud
He
of you.
didn't tee it up in the bunker. That was already there. That was within the rules of a scramble. You can place your ball. The up tees. Rick, he was alive during like the Great Depression. What do you want from the guy?
He won like 40 times this year.
Charlie Woods has like 180 ball speed.
And he's playing off an up tee as well. I had a conversation with two people this morning, and they're like, "Oh, it wasn't fair." I'm like, "What's not fair?" They're like, "Langer and Faldo and all of them are playing from up tees." I'm like, "You know what's not fair? When you get to 54 like me and your body just doesn't go very well, and then they in their 60s, they've earned every right to go off the up tees. And the fact that Langer has kept himself in shape like he has, man, I'm all in on the Bernard Langer train. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mark. I'm with you.
Have they earned the right to tee their ball up in a bunker?
Oh, stop, Rick.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
a scramble. This is why the only way you two can beat Greg and I is if you play by scramble rules.
Patrick and I will employ the Bernard Langer book of scramble, and we will win for sure.
All right, let's go.
I'm Team Langer. So we already have a rift on our side, Rick, which is not good for us.
Fracture.
Even if you guys put an actual tee into the sand and hit driver out of the bunker. I know. You would have a real problem.
Greg from the top rope.
Yeah. We're screwed. We're totally screwed. All right. You'll see our faces and hear our voices later this week, but we'll be live again on Monday. Century, ready to rock and roll. Brand new year. Going after it. That is Greg DuCharme. He does the tweets at The Real GFD. Mark Immelman at Mark_Immelman. Patrick McDonald at P McDonald CBS. Producer Josh does all the hard work behind the scenes. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.
Does he do all the hard work behind the scenes? We're about to find